It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. All right, all ready to go.
Thursday already.
You know, when you think about it, the abduction, kidnapping of Savannah Guthrie's mother, Nancy. You know, it's so, when you think about it, it is so rare in this this time in history to have a kidnapping, abduction of a member of a celebrity's family.
Right.
You just don't see,
right,
kidnapping. And the story continues to just create more questions. You know, you and I were talking about, how all the media is using the word purported, ransom letter.
Right.
Or the emails, I guess, that they actually what they
right.
are. Right.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you read one story, it says the sheriff has it. Well, then it's not purported.
Well, it's the question would be, did it come from someone who's trying to pull a prank that's aware of the disappearance? Is it actually from the people who are responsible? And that, I guess, is why they're using in the media that language. It's the only thing I can figure is that, and the sheriff did say that they have shared the note with the family. And then the question would make, then the question from there would be, all right, if you're sharing that with the family, does any of this information make sense? Is there anything in this note that rings true to you? Or can you think of anybody who might want to do this? Because I think the thing they have to figure out about the note is it real? Is it from the people who are person responsible for her disappearance? Because, at first, when we first heard, we're treating the home like a crime scene, it was, wait a minute, hold on a second. Now, quite often if there's a missing persons, any missing persons report, you show up at a place, and if things don't look right, then you have to preserve everything, and you treat it as a crime scene for that preservation purpose. You don't want to change anything about that scene at all to disturb any possible evidence in the event that a crime was committed. And then you got into the notes being sent to KOLD TV, a local news station, and to TMZ. And according to the reports, it mentioned Bitcoin, it mentioned some details.
But the sheriff said that the details, they will not share whether the details are actually accurate.
Right.
And so you're like, okay, because that's the one thing you look at for any of these things. You say, what's the motivation behind it?
Right.
The motivation for kidnapping is always to gain some wealth because of it.
Right. You're trying to get something, the ransom would be the point.
And we all know that, first thing I thought when I saw the Bitcoin thing was, is this a hoax?
Right. Yeah.
Is this a hoax letter just sent by somebody
who was aware of the disappearance?
Right.
Yeah. And then you treat it as if it's real for now, and you keep the details close to the vest because that communication with the person, if it turns out to be that the ransom note is from the person or persons responsible for the disappearance, you don't want to release the details because you need that communication for verification. You need those details to be part of the verification if there's going to be any contact between authorities or the family and the kidnappers. And so we likely won't see anything else until there's some kind of development. We can only hope and pray she's brought home safely. The president posting just hours ago that he's going to make every resource available for local authorities to help find her and bring her home safely. He did call Savannah Guthrie, and this was right after he had done an interview with NBC, but he called her personally to share his thoughts and support. And so now it's, as you point out, this is extremely rare. And you don't, especially here in the U.S., it's rare that you see this. Ransoms happen in foreign countries where there is, kidnappings of important people, known people, executives, can happen in other countries when criminal groups believe that they can get money. It does happen in other parts of the world, but happening here in the United States is extremely rare. And so it just makes you wonder, again, what's going on here. One of the things is that Ms. Guthrie, featured her mom. That happens with personalities on television. They will, on Mother's Day or maybe a personal story to share, that quite often happens. They share information about their family members. And so is this somebody who was aware of that? Is it somebody who didn't know her at all? But if it's somebody who's wanting a ransom, do they believe because of the house that she lived in or lives in, do they believe, again, it has to be a wealthy person? Do they have any idea she is who she is?
And then if it's not a kidnapping, then what is it?
Right.
Because if it's not a kidnapping, then you're looking at people who knew her and knew what her schedule was, and then you start looking at, if you believe it was not a kidnapping,
right,
it was an abduction or a murder, and then getting rid of the body, which then members of the family become persons of interest.
Right.
By the way, this is all hypothetical.
Right. And generally speaking, I mean, and you're talking about, I don't know, it was roughly a 12-hour period. She was dropped off Saturday night at 9:30 by your son-in-law and didn't show up for church the next morning. And again, the question is, who would want to do something like this? Did they know who she was? Did they know she was part of a wealthy family? Or did they maybe assume that because, again, of the house she lives in? And I just, you look at crimes in general, and the question that always comes to my mind is, how do people think they're going to get away with these things? In other countries where they, pull off crime on a regular basis, it almost becomes a way of life. But in the U.S., we have the most sophisticated law enforcement network combined on every level, if you think about it. And when they're all working together, you're likely not going to get away with anything, especially something high profile like this.
And that's one of the things that I think we all look at. We say, a kidnapping.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. You think you're going to be able to get away, with a kidnapping because there's so many variables when you do something like that.
Right.
And the other thing I thought of was when the family came out with their plea yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Talking if somebody has her.
Right.
Does that mean that they've discounted the purported, you use what the media is using, ransom note for Bitcoin? That's not legitimate because now they're reaching out. So now they don't know it's a kidnapping, so they're just reaching out. If you have my mother, please, release her, let us, whatever.
Well, they said something to the effect of, we're ready to talk. And
right.
and so...
Do you mean you haven't been contacted yet by...
Well, the question would be, is there anything in the note that says we will be contacting you, or, you would think if it were a ransom note, that there would be some kind of instruction or directive in that ransom note that would give you an idea of when you would be contacted. But we're now going into Thursday, and she went missing sometime Saturday night, Sunday morning. And the time is limited because she does have a medication, and it is something that is critical. It's a critical medication, so she needs that every day. And she's also not mobile. She has limited mobility. So the question is, again, was there a directive? Are they still unsure, or maybe not putting much confidence into this email they received, the ransom email?
I'm just, looking at, well-publicized kidnappings, and I'm just looking at the list here, going back, really the last, major one that got so much here in the United States. There's more that happened outside the United States. It was Elizabeth Smart in 2002.
Yeah, just watch the documentary featuring Elizabeth Smart. In that documentary, she talked about everything. She talked about everything she went through. What an amazing person she is, and as a child was able to eventually, and she's an adult now, but as a child, she was able to remember all of the important details that eventually led to the conviction. And then the person's responsible.
Then the most bizarre, probably, kidnapping of my life, which was, looking back, was Patty Hearst.
Yeah.
Abducted by the Symbionese Liberation Army back in 1974.
Right.
And then joined them, was arrested, and then eventually pardoned.
Right.
That was
that was bizarre.
And you look at a family member, when you look at a family member of a celebrity for money.
Yeah.
You have to go, really way back. Frank Sinatra Jr. back in 1963 held for $240,000 in ransom.
Right.
And was released after the payment.
Right.
So, that's how rare, the kidnapping is. And with, as I've always said, whenever I have to travel, I go to the airport, I say to myself, well, I'm never going to commit a crime because I'm everywhere, and this is going to the airport. And when you get to the gate and, it reads your toll tag and says, "Hello, Gary McNamara."
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, wow, with cameras and everything else, they can follow you. And these things didn't happen with the alleged shooter of the healthcare executive. Didn't they follow him?
Luigi.
Didn't they?
Yeah.
Luigi, didn't they follow him through cameras?
I think some were the public cameras that were, and I think about that when I'm leaving for work late at night, coming home early in the morning. I'm thinking, man, all my neighbors' doorbell cameras are all going off with me pulling up, at this time of day and everything else. And it is the technology, that often leads to the arrest of the people responsible. The Elizabeth Smart case, there were things in this new documentary on Netflix, and she was being actually at some point, they were taking her captors were actually taking her to places right there in Salt Lake City. And she was in disguise. They put this cloak and this outfit over her. Even a police officer approached them and said, I need you to lift the veil off of that young person's face to see if it's the girl we're looking for. And the captors actually convinced that police officer, no, because it's against our religion. We can't do that. And the officer backed down. And
that would have been the two people, the Mitchell and his wife.
Yeah.
Brian Mitchell and then his wife, Wanda.
And the family actually wanted to put out information that they had gotten to the public. And there was a sketch that was done. They wanted to put information out. They had a name. They had a nickname of the person they thought might be responsible. And the police at the time, the local police at the time, said no, because then it could make the captors angry. And the family got tired of waiting, and they said, we're going to do it. And they went public with it, and they had their own press conference, and that eventually led to them finding her. But these cases, I mean, there's no telling the motivation.
You know, when you mentioned cameras, I didn't even know that my neighbor put a camera that monitors, you know, the space in between our houses.
Yeah.
And the camera can see me coming out my front door.
Yeah.
And so when I started about a year ago, a lot of times I'll get up on a Saturday morning or Sunday morning when it's dark out at 4 a.m. and ride my bike.
Yeah.
Well, I've got the huge front light on it.
Yeah.
And I turned it on my porch, and when my, neighbors woke up, they were like, there was somebody with the flash. Gary, was that you? They messaged me, was that you with the flashlight? I said, oh, wow. I said, I'm sorry. That's my headlight for my bicycle.
A guy took a picture, by the way, of Elizabeth Smart with her captor when they had gone into a bar. The captor wanted a beer, I guess, but she had her veil on. So there's a picture of her standing with her captor while she's being held captive that whole time. Yeah. I mean, it's wild.
We are Red Eye Radio.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller. At a roadside inspection, inspectors may ask to see supporting documents. These documents can include bills of lading, itineraries, schedules, or equivalent documents that indicate the origin and destination of each trip. They can also include dispatch or trip records, expense receipts related to on-duty/not driving periods, electronic mobile communication transmitted through a fleet management system, and payroll records, settlement sheets, or equivalent documents that indicate payment to a driver. Drivers using paper logs must also keep toll receipts. Supporting documents must contain the driver's name, carrier-assigned identification number, or vehicle unit number that can be linked to the driver, the date, the name of the nearest city, town, or village, and the time. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the bottom of the hour, Tom Homan again held made a statement yesterday in Minneapolis. We will get to that. When I saw him talking yesterday, the one thing I was thinking, Eric, was that the left is trying to figure out a way to demonize him. They haven't come up with a way yet, but they're trying to figure out a way to demonize him. They don't know what to do here at the moment. He's very good at what he does, as he has said. Now, unprecedented cooperation from Minnesota and Minneapolis authorities.
Right.
Doesn't give a specific name, but says, unprecedented, again, cooperation.
Right.
Which infuriates them, but I don't think right now they know how to respond to him. I believe they will, and it will be vicious as everything always is. I don't think it's going to stick, though.
Catch Red Eye Radio live every night on the Red Eye Radio app, available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. All right, this ad I saw on X yesterday, and I was thinking to myself, the Republicans should be spending tons of money running this ad.
Yeah.
And here it is.
All right.
Democrats on common sense immigration. All right, here we go.
Okay.
I'm going to play the ad.
All right.
Democrats used to believe that border security and immigration enforcement were just common sense ideas. Don't believe it? Take their word for it.
Americans are right to demand better border security and better enforcement of the immigration laws.
We simply cannot allow people to pour into the United States undetected, undocumented, unchecked.
We've had 5 million undocumented workers come over the borders. It has become an extraordinary problem.
All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. And we must do more to stop it.
Biden, yes or no, would you allow the cities to ignore the federal law?
No.
Any city should listen to the Department of Homeland Security. The city made a mistake not to deport someone that the federal government strongly felt should be deported. Just because your child gets across the border, that doesn't mean the child gets to stay.
We do not think the comprehensive health care benefits should be extended to those who are undocumented workers and illegal aliens. We do not want to do anything to encourage more illegal immigration.
People say, well, why can't you stop illegal immigrants from coming here? And the number one answer we give is when they come here, they can get jobs, get benefits against the law because of fraud.
Illegal immigration is wrong, plain and simple.
Open borders, and you're doing away with the concept of a nation state.
Our nation, like all nations, has the right and obligation to control its borders, and no matter how decent they are, no matter their reasons, the 11 million who broke these laws should be held accountable.
For decades, these weren't controversial or radical ideas. The only thing that changed is them.
Yeah, there you go.
That should be played over and over again.
Yep.
You know, we've often said this. It boggles our minds that we have said this for a significant period of time. How long? I don't know whether it's a decade or 15 years, 20 years. But each and every year it gets easier to defend conservative principles. And every year it seems as if the Republicans get worse at it.
Yeah, you know, it's so frustrating because you and I over the years have watched them have just a massive door opened for them that they could drive a truck through and not take advantage of it. And then miss every opportunity on very simple communication. I don't know how you force them to do that. I don't know what motivates them. What are you afraid of? It should be every day, all day, the communication, just like what you just heard. Remember the late Harry Reid? I don't know if he was in there in one of those clips.
No.
The late Harry Reid, senator in Nevada. And so, I mean, I think it was as late as 2015. He was saying, we need stronger barriers on the border. He was promoting a wall. Those are the things that are very easy because the internet exists. And now with AI, you can just go to your phone and say, hey, AI, find all the clips of Democrats being anti-illegal immigration. AI will put the ad together for you. It couldn't be easier. And yet they don't do it. The messaging right now is pretty clear. On affordability, that's an uphill game for the Republicans. There's some issues. On everything else, including the border, you win all day long. And somehow they just don't do it. For whatever reason, they don't. And it's frustrating. You know, you've got to go to, you know, other conservative interest groups to do your homework for you. Why is that the case? Why does that also seem to be that, you know, the Republicans or the right will just latch on to a group that seems to be doing well? I mean, you know, Charlie Kirk's Turning Point. If you think of Turning Point, you know, it's like the Republicans woke up to issues, and Charlie was out there doing it every day on campuses. Every day. Debating young people every day. And then it's like they woke up to it going, oh, yeah, well, we need to be a part of it. Why aren't you doing it? The ideas are anybody can understand the ideas. You don't need to follow anybody's lead. Turning Point can do it, and you can do it. But they don't. And I don't get it. I really don't get it.
There doesn't seem to be an effort from the Republicans, and maybe there is. We don't see it. That's the point we're trying to make. But an effort to market the things that they believe that have landslide numbers with the American public and pound it over and over again. Think about, right there what we played. You and I haven't really, I look at it on any major issue. The only thing where I've evolved over the years, and that's just from witnessing how government works, the federal government works, is I've become more libertarian. I believe that the federal government should be involved in fewer things and more should go back to the states. That's really about it, though. But on where I stand on the issues, I don't think I've changed since I articulated in my mind when I first got into talk radio, which I have to do, which would have been in my 30s. That when I articulated what's always been in my head, but I never articulated publicly, I haven't changed really at all on any of those issues, at all, none. And you see what the Democrats are doing, and so you should be throwing it out there every day, marketing it every single day. The Republicans right now, a lot in the fundraising, have a huge advantage. But donors, if they saw that their money was being used effectively and they knew you were winning on your message with your ads, they would continue to do it, and you could continue that lead over the Democrats in fundraising.
Yeah.
But, well, okay, give us money to do this. Why? How are you going to use it?
Right.
What I need to make sure it's effective, before you do it. That ad is effective because you're seeing all these people when these things were, those audio cuts were taken, were well into their 40s and 50s. Mm-hmm. They didn't change their mind. They still believe the same thing.
Yeah.
They didn't change their, it's like Obama never changed his mind on gay marriage. He was always for gay marriage.
Right.
He didn't grapple. He lied to the American public on what he thought about gay marriage because of the politics of it. And the same thing here with illegal immigration issues. They believe that they shouldn't be here, but politically they want to do everything they possibly can to have illegals vote.
Yeah.
That's absolutely clear now.
Oh,
if there's anything that's come out of the last 2 weeks, because if you said that even 6 months ago, you're a conspiracy theorist.
Mm-hmm.
you're putting out conspiracy theories. It's wrong. It's reprehensible. It's racist to say that. And then who was it? What Democrat came out a couple of weeks ago and basically said the same? What Democrat came out and talked about, it was a senator, I think, came out and talked about ICE at election, polling places. And the Democrats are still out there screaming about it. The average person says, why would that be a problem? Well, it might keep people from voting. Not American citizens.
Right.
What's your point? So all these radical points that they have, my God, I mean, listen to them talk about over the last couple of days, voter ID, photo voter ID, Jim Crow 2.0. And Eric pointed out, no, that was Georgia. This has to be 3.0.
That's right.
But they've been pounding that for 30 years.
Yeah.
And the polling has gone in the opposite direction. I actually looked at the polling. I actually did that yesterday. Looked at the polling. It was like 76%, 78%, 79%. Now it's 83%. As much as they've been screaming racism, 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 it doesn't work. And it's up to the Republicans to explain all of these issues and continue to do it in a very, these issues aren't complicated. You're here illegally. You shouldn't vote.
Right.
It's not like trying to figure out what you want in a Fed chair for the average person.
And if you're going to vote, you need to have a photo ID. Pretty simple.
So there's not fraud. No. Why not? Because it's racist. No, landslide number of minorities believe photo ID is a good thing.
Look, you've already got 83% on your side. Your only work is 17% of the people.
And you're not going to get them.
Nope.
You continue to market it to keep then again, for everything that's happened and the fact that Trump backs it and it's gone just from a few years ago, 76% to 83%, it's moving the opposite way. Democrats aren't buying what Democrats are trying to sell.
No, they're not.
Minorities that have traditionally voted more Democrat over the last 50, 60 years, you're not convincing them. They're moving in the opposite direction. They don't buy what you're saying. They look at it and say, sorry, this is self-evident. One of those issues is self-evident. Voter ID ensures there's no fraud. I want my vote to count.
Well, the issues right now are so basic, are so easy to make the point on. There's not a lot of math there. There just isn't. You don't have to go out of your way and break it down into long-form discussions. It's very simple. And there's only one reason the Democrats would be against it. They're okay with fraud. They want fraud.
They want fraud in elections. There is no other reason.
Right.
By process of elimination, as we went through yesterday, why are you doing this?
Right.
It makes no sense. Politically, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Why are you doing it? Because you're desperate for votes and you want illegal immigrants to vote.
Right.
Because there's no other reason. Nobody buys that it's racist. Nobody buys that it's Jim Crow. No one.
Nope.
Not even the radical left that claims it's racist. They know it's not racist. They just want illegals to vote. By process of elimination.
Yep.
There is no other reason.
Right. And they're the ones screaming foreign influence on elections.
I know. We are Red Eye Radio.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley and I'm Gary McNamara. Did you see the story? The Minneapolis City Council delays a liquor license renewal for 2 downtown hotels housing ICE agents.
Yeah.
See, this is the problem with, when you look at government and how they will liberal the far left, and this is what you're dealing with now.
Yeah.
How you are doing something that's completely lawful.
Right.
Completely lawful.
Yeah.
And they wish to punish you for it.
Right. Yep.
They don't like what you're doing, so okay, it's not a right, it's a privilege, and therefore we will revoke that privilege from you.
Mm-hmm.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Still to come, the reaction of the left to the Washington Post layoffs yesterday. That was entertaining. We will get to that. The situation in Iran. What else? Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen Polling had an op-ed piece in the New York Post. Really interesting because it mirrors a lot of what we have said about the failures of this administration. Mark Mitchell, a Trump fan. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, Trump fan. It's interesting because they put out he put out the op-ed piece on a day when Trump hit his lowest number, tied for his lowest number in Rasmussen Polling, which is a Republican pollster, basically, at 43%. So we'll get to that here in just a little bit. But we do want to play, I say because I pushed the button, but Eric wants it too.
I don't care if we play it.
Just part of the press conference.
Play it or not.
Yesterday that Tom Homan held in Minneapolis, and I'm playing it because Eric doesn't want to hear it.
I don't care.
Here we go.
During my press conference last week, I reported I had productive discussions with various state and local officials, including Governor, Attorney General, Mayor Frey, and law enforcement officials about increasing coordination in a lawful way between the county jails and ICE to avoid public safety threats being released back in the community. While we had our differences, one thing was clear: we all committed to public safety for all who live in the Twin Cities. We have made significant progress under the direction of President Trump, working with state and local officials here in Minnesota, and I expect that to increase in the coming weeks. We continue to have discussions. I'll have discussions this afternoon. We currently have an unprecedented number of counties communicating with us now and allowing ICE to take custody of illegal aliens before they hit the streets. Unprecedented cooperation. And I'll say it again. This is efficient, requires only 1 or 2 officers to assume custody of a criminal alien target rather than 8 or 10 officers going into the community and arresting that public safety threat. This frees up more officers to arrest or remove criminal aliens. More officers taking custody of criminal aliens directly from the jails means less officers on the street doing criminal operations. This is smart law enforcement, not less law enforcement. It's safer for the community, safer for the officers, and safer for the alien. This coordination also makes it far more safe for the Twin Cities. Arresting a public safety threat in the safety and security of a jail is the safest thing we could do. Further, less public safety risks are being released back into the communities reduces recidivism, so local law enforcement can direct their limited resources to other public safety matters in their community. This is another priority of President Trump. The state prisons already cooperate with ICE on this coordinated transfer of custody, and we thank them for that partnership, and we plan to do more with them. I also want to reiterate and emphasize we are not requiring jails to hold people past their normal release time for immigration purposes. We're not asking anyone to be an immigration officer. We are not asking any state or local official to do immigration enforcement activity. They are not. By merely notifying us before they release them, they don't hold them 1 minute past they normally would. Given this increase in unprecedented collaboration, and as a result of the need for less law enforcement officers to do this work in a safer environment, I have announced effective immediately, we will draw down 700 people effective today. 700 law enforcement personnel. We have also fully integrated CBP personnel into the ICE ERO team structure under one unified chain of command. Not two chains of command, there'd be one chain of command here. Any large enforcement operation I've ever been involved with, there's one chain of command, and that's where we're moving forward. During my press conference last week, I announced that moving forward, ICE will be conducting targeted immigration enforcement operations, like ICE has traditionally done for decades, based on reasonable suspicion to question and detain. ICE will conduct these operations and transnational criminal organization investigations with a focus on national security and public safety. I want to be clear. Just because you prioritize public safety threats don't mean we forget about everybody else. We will continue to enforce the immigration laws in this country. To help execute this, we have developed and implemented a multi-agency surge task force within an operational framework that clarifies lines of effort, integrated enforcement, investigative and special response efforts. A unified joint operations center has been established to manage all operations and ensure efforts align with priorities of the mission. This reorganization also enables ICE to leverage joint intelligence capabilities to effectively target threats, as well as to reduce the overall personnel footprint and enhance public safety and confidence in the agency's capabilities and presence here.
So he really covered everything there. He said it again later on. He said, just because you're not a criminal, if you're here illegally, it doesn't mean you're off the hook.
Right.
So he covered everything. I think somebody on MSNBC, I think I saw something yesterday where they took off on him and tried to call him Hitler or whatever. Mm-hmm. But you think about it, everything that he has said there, where he wins is when he says we have had unprecedented cooperation from counties now in Minnesota. And we've got cooperation from the state, and we're improving the cooperation in the city. Everything that he said there, and this, every time, like when he was talking yesterday, and I'm watching this, I'm thinking to myself, I really believe that the White House, and I use Stephen Miller as the point person because he's the one that probably was in the media the most. I believe that they thought that the confrontations in the street would actually move Americans to their side. I don't believe that Homan has ever thought that. And I say that because Homan has been doing this for decades. As we all know, he was he was highly decorated under the Obama administration. And there is nobody out there that can look on the right and say, oh, this guy's wimping out.
Right. Yeah.
And you and I have said this change that happened so quickly, we believe, is poll driven inside polls in the Republican Party and in the White House. That they looked at it and said it can't happen. And behind the scenes, I wonder how much Homan was not in agreement with how they were doing it.
Well, we know that he wasn't running the show for sure.
Right.
He didn't have the influence that he has now. And now he's running the show. And so that leads me to believe that they didn't see eye to eye on the way it was going before.
And the way that he said he reports directly to the president means that Noem's out of the loop and Miller's out of the loop.
Right.
Not that Miller had any authority.
Right, yeah.
But the fact is they want that marketed that he alone is responsible for what's going on in Minnesota, and he reports directly to the president.
Right. I mean, as borders are, that's going to be it. But, you know, you think about his experience, but also his approach. What you just heard in terms of his approach was the language of law enforcement. You and I have talked about this on many occasions, about how other people don't speak that language, apparently, and they're top-level law enforcement. James Comey comes to mind. And Homan always has been clear and direct. And it's all about the job at hand. Clearing out those 700 agents in one day. That still leaves, according to some counts, 2,300 agents in that city.
Right.
But what he also followed up with was all under one command. There won't be any, that's the way it should be. There shouldn't be any mixed messages. There should be one command. Then when you've got a large, that's a pretty large presence still. After the 700 leaving, still a large presence. You have to have one command because there has to be the one approach. And that's what you're seeing here. I don't know what's happened, but something has happened, and it's likely internals that are coming back. I don't know who got the president's ear over the last week, but somebody did. And it's clear on a number of fronts. On this one, it is. But on a number of issues, there has been a very different tone. And if the internals are coming back, the question is, okay, do you believe the internals? Well, the internals they live and die by the internals. Traditionally, the question would be, specifically, does this particular president believe internals, and how much weight does he put into them? Or is it somebody, Susie Wiles or somebody else that has his ears on a number of issues? It's not just what's going on with ICE, but there are a number of issues here where the tone has changed, and it's been very clear. And look, you're into February now. You're well into the midterm season, and there has to be focus on November. You're going to need your party to get your agenda done in the second half of your second term, and that's what it comes down to. And affordability notwithstanding, you win on most every other issue.
Here's Jonathan Turley. Here's what he wrote. I love Tom Homan consistently thanking Governor Walz and other Democratic leaders for their unprecedented cooperation in helping seize targets in their jails. For protesters opposing any cooperation, It is the equivalent of getting kissed by Marlon Brando, and then he has a clip from the movie The Freshman with Matthew Broderick and Marlon Brando. and then he writes, the last thing that Walsh, Ellison, and Fry want is a BFF, best friend forever, shout-out from the border czar. Next step, actual BFF rings, and then he has a link where you go to Amazon to get a BFF ring.
That's funny.
And that's the beauty of it. Where do you go?
Right.
You're saying we have the cooperation.
Right.
And that's why right now is a perfect time to be pounding that ad that we played earlier, showing Schumer and Clinton and Obama. And absolutely no. There's no exceptions. Illegal immigrants cannot be here.
Right.
They cannot be here.
Right.
And you take the combination of both. Look, one of the things the Democrats have done successfully is make up stuff and repeat it over and over and over again.
Yeah, yeah.
Hitler, fascism, fascist, all that. They repeat it. It's completely untrue, but they repeat it over and over and over and over and over again. Now, it doesn't necessarily work. It's not working on photo ID.
Right.
And so you just keep talking in regular language to the people in simple terms. This is what we're doing.
Yep.
And we're getting unprecedented cooperation. Because when you do that, well, he's telling the truth. They are getting it.
Yeah.
And then what do the protesters do? Who are they angry at? Homan? Are they angry at the state of Minnesota and the counties now cooperating in unprecedented fashion? And Homan can say that because he was a part of the Obama administration, too.
They gave him an award.
Yeah. That's
when he was at the executive level, he got an award from Obama.
Obama loved Tom Homan.
Yep.
We are Red Eye Radio.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Watching a game, football, that calls for audibles on the field, you as the Super Bowl party chef or planner may choose to call an audible of your own regarding food prep, takeout, or delivery of fare for the big game. USDA food safety expert Meredith Carruthers, what are some safety tips to consider regarding takeout or delivery? Say chicken wings, for instance.
Try and time it to where it's closer to when you're going to serve it, or have a plan for how you're going to keep them at a safe temperature until it's time to serve.
With the 2-hour rule in consideration, never leave food out at room temperature beyond 2 hours to avoid potential foodborne bacteria. So, for example,
my party isn't starting till 4 p.m., but it's easiest for me to get these wings delivered at noon. Are you going to put them in the refrigerator and then reheat them later, or putting them in an oven turned on low setting? It has to be above 140 degrees and keeping them warm throughout until you start to serve them.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Wow, we got our answer to one of the questions that we had last week or the week before when we said, are there leaks coming about where those ICE agents were in Minneapolis? We're like, how do people know? Came out yesterday. Homeland Security Director Noem on Wednesday said another prolific leaker who disclosed information that put federal law enforcement officers at risk has been caught. She announced this on X. She said, I plan to refer this individual to the Justice Department for criminal prosecution. Wow.
Well, it was apparent. And one of the things you have to consider that you have to remember is that the person doesn't have to be in a high-profile position within any department or whatever. There are activists that are everywhere. I mean, we've seen the stories on a couple of nurses here recently that decided they were going to take their activism to their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
My gosh. And so then, you have to think within the government. Well, of course there are activists out there, and it was clear when it came to some of the ICE raids that some leaks were happening.
Daytime is overrated. Nights are where it's at with Gary and Eric on Red Eye Radio.
Except if you're listening to our podcast during the day. Yeah. Here we are. All right. The Washington Post laying off a third of their staff. The sports section gone. No more sports section of the Washington Post.
Wow.
The book section gone. Parts of the Metro section will be gone. It was interesting to watch people that had worked for the Washington Post, to see people who were being let go from the Washington Post talk about their own importance to the world of journalism.
Yeah.
I don't like to see anybody get laid off.
No.
Right? First off.
No.
But this is not surprising. When you think about it, for the most part, I mean, not over the last 20, 25 years. And in a lot of smaller towns, you had second newspapers that were gone in the late 70s, early 80s. If they were a two-newspaper town, you saw, I mean, this is something that's been going on for almost half a century.
Yeah.
When it comes to it. The newspaper business is... How long will it last? Was pointed out yesterday with the actual, facts of their bottom line. The New York Times and the Washington Post, the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal making a profit. You have so many other newspapers that are not. I saw a lot of, it was interesting about the sports section being gone, and a lot of older guys like me talking about how horrible it is that the sports section is gone. And I think that comes from the nostalgia that I had. You know how I really learned math? How I learned, decimal points and percentages was from the sports page when I was a kid. I didn't care about math class, but what's he batting? 333? What does that mean? All the statistics, all the percentages, but when I was growing up, growing up in Buffalo, there were two newspapers, the Buffalo News and the Courier Express. I think the Courier Express went out of business in late 1982, and I remember somebody who got a job there, who I knew from the neighborhood, Eric Brady, who then ended up at the USA Today. After the Courier Express went under, and he had a long career. And then you might remember I talked about him on the show because he was the one that wrote that hit piece on Kavanaugh. Remember the hit piece? We talked about it that day, and I said, look, I know this guy who did. I know I played sandlot football with him, and he wrote a hit piece. Well, interestingly enough, I was at the Buffalo airport one day, and I wrote something, and we had been Facebook friends, and this was probably 6 months after I criticized him and really went after him for what he did, because it was a hit job. This is where he was saying that Kavanaugh shouldn't be, because of the allegations, should be thrown out of being. Remember, I think he was a coach.
Yeah,
he was a coach somewhere, and I'm at the Buffalo airport getting ready to come back after visiting Dad, and I had posted something. I forgot what it was about. next thing you know, he messages me and says, where are you, and this is early in the morning. He goes, he said, where are you? And I said, I'm at the airport. I'm flying back to Dallas. And he said, well, since you're formerly from Buffalo, and he was writing for them, he was living in Washington. He was writing as an independent columnist, whatever. He wasn't actually working for them. He was probably 1099ing it. And I said, yeah, if you want to, but we got to talk about something else. And I brought it up to him, the hit piece. He was very quiet about it. He goes, well, that's for another time. And just wanted to interview me and then used me in the interview and wasn't, was fair as to what I said. Because normally I don't like doing those kind of interviews. But I actually said I'll do the interview because I wanted to tell him what he did about Kavanaugh was wrong. But I remember when he got hired by USA Today, but that was the beginning for me. And I remember, I can tell you the names of the sports writers that I grew up, reading, and it meant everything to me. I didn't care about the front page when I was a kid. All I cared about was the sports page, went right to the sports page. And I think that's more nostalgia from we old guys. Mm-hmm. You're not going to return to that in newspapers. The internet has taken over. People talk about the radio business overall, but the radio business compared to the listenership of 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago is still there. The problem with the radio industry was debt. People bought radio companies for way over what they were worth. Mm-hmm. Now, every business changes and formats change and tastes change. And yes, for example, in, for us, we have a radio audience, but you also podcasting is a part of it. Recording shows, playing them as podcast has become more popular because you want to have more of a reach. But radio listenership really is not down that much compared to what's happening to newspapers. It was really the debt load that hurt radio in the United States. Would you agree?
Well, and video didn't kill the radio star because those MTV VJs, the ones that survived, are now doing radio.
Yes.
Ironically enough.
Yeah, they are. Video did not. And so, but radio is an anomaly in the media that hasn't been affected as much by technology, by the change in technology and the internet. In fact, it's become
because you can stream radio, the same as you can, listening to whether it's recorded or live,
right?
And it's portable.
But for the Washington Post, it was simple. They didn't, and the New York Times still is making a profit because the New York Times is delivering what the audience wants, and that's political activism.
Yeah.
And so when you had that going on at the Post for such a long time, you had a decreasing audience, but a much more loyal audience that wanted the leftist political activism. That's what they demanded. And when Bezos took over and said, look, we're losing readers all the time. We've got to change something up. And then when they refused to make the endorsement for Biden, well, then you lost a significant portion of your audience that was willing to pay for it. They were willing to pay for it because they were waiting for your political activism.
Yeah.
Now, what you do to save the Washington Post, I don't know. When you look at the two big monsters that are still making a profit, it's the New York Times, which is delivering the far left political activism that their readers want, and the Wall Street Journal, which is making I think they're all making the overall company. Who owns Wall Street Journal again? I forgot. I got mine blank.
Oh, it's what's his
Murdoch.
name? Murdoch owns Fox.
Fox
News.
But the Wall Street Journal itself is actually making a profit.
Yeah.
I only go through two paywalls that I've personally paid for. There's others we've been allowed in because we're in the media, but there's only two, and that's I pay for the Wall Street Journal and I pay for National Review. And National Review is not close to being as massive as the Wall Street Journal, but they are the one place where conservatives meet, and it's the ideology of what's a conservative that's being talked about all the time. They cover the current events, but they debate each other, which is really, really healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's worth, as a radio talk show host, having. And the Wall Street Journal, the reason I'm still there is because of their editorial page, not necessarily the news division, but you and I all the time, because of the cost of having that even online, is pretty expensive.
The Wall Street Journal?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to take out a loan every month.
Yeah, but when this goes back about 2 years ago, where my father, when he was still reading newspapers, dropped the Buffalo News because they wanted it delivered to the home and whatever. It was like $1,000 a year.
Yeah, no.
And they went, I'm done.
Yeah.
And I really thought, because in my culture, from first reading a newspaper, whatever age that was, to being in my 60s, probably 10 years ago, when the shift really happened to the internet. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm not going to be able to, I don't know, it's going to be too much of a culture shock for me not to have those newspapers accessible to me every day. I was wrong. I have access to more information because of the internet and what I choose to get than I've ever had before.
Well, for me, these days, a paper newspaper, a print version, would be just the next thing I'm looking to throw away. I mean, it's Mitch Hedberg. He said, a flyer, when somebody hands you a flyer, it's like they're telling you, hey, you throw this away. And I think the same way of print newspapers these days. I don't have the patience. I wouldn't, if you gave me I can't remember the last time I held one in my hands. But if you gave me, I do actually. We use some for my wife's garden. But if you gave me one to read, to go through, that would seem so tedious. And it used to be the opposite. It used to be that reading something online was tedious. And now my brain is just, in fact, everything is through my phone. I got out my laptop the other day at the office at home. And I had my laptop open, and I was like, this seems archaic. We have desktops in here in the studio. But still, everything I do, 90% of my research I do is on my phone.
Same with me.
And everything that I'm reading is on my phone. My wife is always, don't you need to take a break? Give your eyes a break. Give your eyes a break. I'm like, no, I can't take a break. I'm reading. I'm working.
It is like a drug. I can almost say I'm addicted. There's so many news sources out there that on one issue, I'll read 15, 20 different sources.
Well, and we were asking the question, in fact, about the Savannah Guthrie's mom and that case. And that's one example where the different sources if they have different information and they write it differently, I have 20 questions after reading each of those articles because of the way it was written or what they didn't include. And so I have to keep going, and that's kind of the addictive nature of it, is that I've got a question in my mind about, okay, but what about this? They didn't include this. They're not saying this. But that happens with so many stories, even between the Wall Street Journal and the New York Post, which are very different publications. If you're talking about the Epstein files, the Wall Street Journal, the accused, blah, blah, blah. If the New York Post agreed, the perv said, and, but still there's also different information that you have to kind of extract from each source.
But think about this, though. When TMZ has more credibility in breaking news than many in the mainstream media, and when the New York Post that many times writes, you and I bring the headlines or the stories to you, when the New York Post in their tabloid style is viewed as more credible, there's a change.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
We are Red Eye Radio.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So, why did the Washington Post lay off a third of their employees? As National Review points out, in 2025, the Post's print circulation fell below 100,000 for the first time in 55 years. Its digital traffic has recently collapsed relative to the paper's chief competitor, the New York Times. The paper lost $77 million in 2023 and $100 million in 2024.
Whoa.
The companies that own the Times and the Wall Street Journal, meanwhile, are both earning record profits. There you go.
Yeah. That's a sinking ship.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.